Have you ever cried over someone so deeply that you thought losing them would destroy you? Have you ever begged God to save a relationship only to watch it fall apart right in your hands? And what if what broke your heart was actually the very thing protecting your soul? Stay with me, because this message is for the person who feels confused, rejected, maybe even abandoned, but deep down still senses that God is doing something bigger than they can see right now. And before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. If you've ever had to let go of someone you thought was your future, leave a quiet "I'm still healing" in the comments, not for attention, but as a reminder that you are not walking through this alone. This is not punishment. This is not God forgetting you. This is not proof that your prayers failed. Sometimes, the ending you never wanted is the rescue you never recognized, because God will remove people from your life, not to empty you, but to protect the version of you He is preparing to raise. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some relationships feel powerful not because they are holy, but because they are familiar to your wounds. And that is why toxic love can feel so hard to release. It doesn't just touch your emotions. It wraps around your fears, your loneliness, your need to be chosen, your desire to feel seen. But when God is preparing you for something higher, He will not allow everything to go with you. He starts pruning. He starts cutting. He starts closing doors you are too emotionally attached to shut yourself. And today we're going to walk through 7 spiritual signs that God is removing toxic love from your life, not to harm you, but to clear the way for something holier, safer, and aligned with your true destiny. Now pay attention, because the first sign is often the one people misunderstand the most. Sign number 1, divine interruption through painful breakups. Sometimes God ends what you kept trying to revive, not because you were unworthy, not because love itself was wrong, but because staying in that connection would have cost you your peace, your purpose, and eventually your identity. You may have been praying for your future spouse while still clinging to someone who was slowly pulling you away from your calling. And in His mercy, God answered the prayer, andut, by removing what you were too heartbroken to release. That breakup was not always a loss. Sometimes it was divine intervention. And here's what most people miss. You can cry over what God removed and still be grateful later that He did. Sign number 2, your spiritual discernment starts getting sharper. Before God brings the right person, He often upgrades your ability to recognize the wrong one. Things you used to excuse now disturb your spirit. Conversations that once excited you now leave you drained. Red flags that you once romanticized now become impossible to ignore. You begin to feel inner resistance where you once felt obsession. Why? Because God is clearing the static. He is training your spirit not to accept counterfeits when He is preparing something genuine. This is why some people suddenly feel different after heartbreak. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming clear. And if that has been happening to you, type discernment in the comments. Sometimes naming the shift helps you honor what God is doing inside you. Sign number 3. God begins pruning your circle. This part hurts in a different way, because sometimes it's not just a relationship that fades. It's friendships, old environments, people who normalize dysfunction, people who laughed at your boundaries, people who fed your confusion instead of your peace. Scripture warns that bad company corrupts good character, and before God establishes something sacred in your life, He often removes the voices that would sabotage it. So if your circle has been getting smaller, don't panic. Not every season of loneliness is abandonment. Some seasons are alignment. God knows that the people around you will either strengthen your future covenant or weaken it, and He loves you too much to leave that to chance. Sign number 4. You start getting tired of people pleasing. This is a powerful sign, because toxic love often survives through overgiving, over-explaining, over-forgiving, over-shrinking. For so long, maybe you believed that if you were patient enough, kind enough, loving enough, available enough, you could finally earn consistency. But God begins to heal that lie. He starts teaching you that love does not require self-erasure, that kindness without wisdom becomes self-destruction, that boundaries are not walls, they are gates, and gates protect what is sacred. So now, Instead of chasing mixed signals, you pause. Instead of begging for clarity, you step back. Instead of lowering your standards, you start honoring your soul. That is not pride. That is healing. But here's the catch. Healing often feels unfamiliar at first because chaos used to feel like love. Sign number 5, you begin to feel peace in the silence. This is one of the clearest signs of all. When God is healing you, He slowly teaches your heart to be still. Not numb, not shut down. Still. You stop needing constant messages, constant reassurance, constant emotional noise just to feel wanted. You begin to discover that being alone with God feels safer than being emotionally entangled with the wrong person. And this changes everything, because the moment loneliness is no longer mixed with panic, you are becoming ready. Ready for healthy love, ready for clarity, ready for a connection that doesn't have to compete with chaos to feel real. God will often keep you in a quiet season until you know who you are, without needing someone else to confirm it. Sign number 6. The way you handle conflict begins to change. Look at who you were 2 or 3 years ago. Did you explode? Withdraw? Beg? Use silence as punishment? Run from hard conversations? Now compare that to who you are becoming. God may be teaching you restraint, teaching you how to listen before reacting, how to pause before assuming, how to pursue peace without abandoning truth. And that matters more than most people realize. Because a marriage without emotional maturity does not become a blessing just because there is chemistry. It becomes slow destruction. So when God changes the way you respond under pressure, He is not just healing your past, He is preparing your future. And if one part of this video is speaking directly to your situation, take a second to subscribe to the channel. Not as a routine click, but as a way of saying, I'm committed to healing, not repeating. Sign number 7. Old soul ties begin to lose their power. One day, you wake up, and the person who used to haunt your thoughts is not there in the same way anymore. The memory is still there, but the grip is weaker. The ache is quieter. The emotional pull no longer owns you. That is not accidental. That is spiritual cleansing. God is removing residues you could not wash out on your own. The old attachments, the toxic patterns, the emotional residue of who hurt you, confused you, seduced you, or kept you stuck. He is cleansing the house of your soul because He does not want your future to meet the version of you that is still bonded to what He already called you out of. Let that sink in. And maybe this is the real lesson. God is not just taking someone away. He is taking away every false version of love that taught you to betray yourself. Every lie that said pain is proof of depth. Every belief that said being chosen by a broken person is the same thing as being loved. It's not. Now here's the part nobody tells you. Sometimes God leaves you in solitude not because nothing is happening, but because everything important is happening there. This is where your taste changes. Your standards change. Your prayers change. Your identity changes. And when your identity changes, your relationships have to change too. Think of it like this. A tree planted by living water does not chase rainstorms. It grows because it is rooted. That is what God is doing in you. He is teaching you to root yourself in Him so deeply that you no longer confuse emotional intensity with divine connection. So don't rush this season. Don't fight the pruning. Don't romanticize what God is trying to remove. Trust that every closed door, every delayed message, every relationship that fell apart despite your efforts may have been mercy wearing the disguise of heartbreak. Everything God cut away was not cruelty. It was protection. It was alignment. It was love with wisdom in its hands. So instead of obsessing over when the right person will come, ask a better question. Who am I becoming while God prepares me? Because the greatest miracle may not be the person He sends. It may be the person you become before they arrive. If this message spoke to you, write this in the comments. I trust God's pruning. Write it like a declaration. Write it like a prayer. Write it like someone who is done begging broken love to stay. And if you know this season is changing you, make sure you follow the channel for more messages like this each week. God is not emptying your life. He is making room for peace that does not confuse you, for love that does not diminish you, for a future that will not require you to abandon yourself to keep it. Stay faithful, stay still, and trust what God is removing.